So our next speaker is a beautiful, talented woman. She is a mindset and business coach. She had an amazing excursion in Thailand just recently, probably thinking of moving there because, if you guys follow her on Instagram, her adventures are out of this world. Everybody, please welcome to the stage, Tiffany Taylor.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Has everyone had their coffee already? Good, because I have, and you're going to need it for what's about to come next. Before I go ahead and get started, I just want to give a huge shout out to Benny and his team. This is such a beautiful event. We have incredible humans in the room. How many of you met at least one incredible contact in the last day? 2? 3? Benny, that's huge. This event is a smashing success, and it takes so much work to put something like this together. So thank you for myself and also on behalf of everyone here. This has been amazing. Now I'm going to start this by asking, what is mindset? Because whenever I go to talk about mindset, I hear the same sentiment in every room. My mindset's good, or maybe I just need help with a few things. But most people don't even think about the mindset. And the reason is you've been wearing glasses your whole life and you didn't realize there's a lens there. Your mindset is the lens you have before your eyes that's filtering what comes inside and how you process information. The challenge is if you have stain on your lens, or it's scratched, or a crack, or if you're wearing sunglasses in the middle of the day, then you're going to have a hard time seeing. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, there's 3 things that you're going to be learning today. We're going to be talking a lot about confidence, but last minute after some conversations I had with you last night, I decided to talk a lot about identity as well, because this is a topic that just kept coming up. And the root of confidence is actually at identity. So we're going to be talking about that today as well. We're going to be talking about what needs to be eliminated in order for you to take center stage, to have a successful speaker mindset, and exactly what the steps are to get there. Now, do I have your permission to inspire you today? Yeah, we're going to start with some inspiration. So it's really important when you're learning from someone as a speaker, you need to be able to connect with your audience. Understanding the story of someone is going to help you connect. It's also going to make you want to learn more. So I'm going to share bits and pieces of my story, and it's going to be a little bit entertaining. But first, I want you to know my speaking experience. I know when we talk about speaking, you're thinking about being on stage like I am right now. But speaking takes so many different forms, and I want you to really understand how many different types of stages there are. So if you see right here in the blue, that is my first time ever speaking. Okay? I'm in Brickell. I'm at the Capital One Cafe. I remember I was terrified. Nobody had a fear of public speaking quite like I did. I was shaking. My hands were physically shaking. My legs were physically shaking. And I had this really awkward stance like this almost the whole video. But I did it. And had I not done that, none of the pictures would be able to follow. Okay. That was huge because I took action in the opposite direction of my fear, which allowed me to propel forward. Okay. That was part 1 of breaking a pattern. The second thing I did as a speaker is I started getting in rooms like this. I started investing in being in rooms like this. I started investing in speaker training. That's how I was able to meet Les Brown. Then I created a vision for myself. That's really key. In fact, I'm going to challenge all of you to get a picture like this before you leave today. I got pictures of myself holding a microphone before I was a speaker. My friend spoke on a TEDx stage. I said, I want to do that one day. So I put it on my vision board and I got the photo. But speaking for me in the beginning looked a lot more like Zoom. It looked a lot more like my first workshop over here that I ever hosted. I was also shaking the whole time for that one, but I did it. And eventually it turned into small groups. Now, how did I overcome the fear of public speaking? Because you see, I spoke a few times. I was shaking every time. There was a day on this little island I was living on that I posted a women in business accountability group. And I got 4 RSVPs. Said, great, that's a small group. That's like a dinner table. I got this. And then 20 people showed up. I was fine with 3, 4, 5. And every time someone new walked in that door, I felt the anxiety go higher and higher and higher. I didn't have any material prepped. I didn't know what to say. And all of a sudden, a small group became an audience, and I had to do something. And it was in that moment on my feet, I had to realize it wasn't about me. it was my responsibility. I got this group together. It was my responsibility to show up and make sure they left with value. I already knew what value they wanted because they were there. I had to get out of my own head and help them. And miraculously, there was no anxiety. I had fun. It was exciting. I made friends. They made friends. And that group kept growing. And that went from one event to one event a week, to 2 events a week, to 3 events a week, to me hosting the largest mastermind in the country of Thailand in 2021. And that was during the pandemic. That was just the start. It grew from there. Now speaking looks like being on panels like I was yesterday. I speak in Miami all the time. I've been flown out to Cabo, Mexico to speak. I've been flown out to Dubai to speak. I've had keynote speeches. I spoke at Miss Sharifa's Empower Her event a few months ago as well. I've been on podcasts like the Fresh and Fit podcast as an example. And I'll tell you the stage that made the biggest impact for me that I'm most proud of is now that I have the skill of speaking, I get to think, what impact do I want to have? The stage I'm most proud of is the one all the way over here on the right. That is at the Take a Walk in Her Shoes annual charity event for Chapman Partnership, which is working towards ending homelessness in Miami. Now, I started with no audience on Instagram. I was on very small podcasts in the beginning just to get practice. So if you go on my Instagram, you'll probably find a link to my Spotify, which has a playlist of every podcast I've ever spoken on. When I started my business, I would share my story about how I was homeless in Miami, renting the floor space of my Uber driver's apartment, sleeping on a pink yoga mat. And that was in 2017. I stopped sharing that story when I moved back to Miami because my story had grown. But because the podcast was still out there, would you know the staff at Chapman Partnership where I was volunteering knew that story. In fact, the whole executive team knew the story. The CEO knew my story. I didn't know the CEO knew me. So when they needed someone to do a documentary style film on in order to help raise funds for their annual luncheon, they came and asked me. I wanted to say no. And then they said, but what about your pink yoga mat story? And I was shook. Okay, I speak a lot in Miami. I never started that story. The only way they would have known that story is they went back through my history. You have to share your story. You never know who's listening. Okay? Doesn't matter how small the audience is. Doesn't matter if it's a new podcast or if it's just you talking on YouTube. You never know who's listening. And I do believe that all of your interactions, all of your relationships are going to be divinely orchestrated. But you have to do your part. Your part is showing up. You might not have control about where it goes from there, but if you do your part, you never know where it's going to take you. Their goal for that luncheon was to raise $50,000. We raised $70,000 on stage right there. That is not including the email campaign they put out afterwards with the video. It was the most successful luncheon they've ever had. That is the stage I'm most proud of. I would not have been able to do that had I not taken all the small steps first, had I not had the mindset of a speaker along matched with the skill and the experience of speaking. Okay, so I want to expand you a little bit. Yes, speaking for business is great, but how much can you really accomplish when you have that impact? What can your story really do for you? I'm going to encourage you to think a little bit bigger on it. Now, you get to have, be, and do everything you want in this life. And I know that's not common from what you're taught. And I know it's very cliche for the people who say it, but I mean that. The only person who's going to limit you is yourself. And a good way to tell what your programming is anything you desire is programming. And anything you consider normal is also programming. Okay? So let's go ahead and break some of that. This is what my life actually looks like. That is not a highlight reel. I actually think only one of those pictures is even on Instagram. But that's the reality of my life. It's not Instagram. Okay? I have a lot of hobbies. I love traveling. I love adventure. And part of being a really cool speaker is having stories to share. I'm sharing that with you now. Because we talked yesterday about being isolated to the role that you're in, right? I've always been this. I've been doing this for the last few years. We get to shift that to what could I be? What could I experience? A lot of these things were terrifying for me. I can say probably everything on there. Meditating was probably the scariest thing for me because there was majority of my life I couldn't be alone with my own thoughts. I didn't say I don't meditate. I can't meditate. I'm not a yogi kind of person. I said, let me try it. I didn't say, motorcycles are dangerous. It's scary. I don't know how to do that. I don't know anyone who drives motorcycles. I said, I'll try it. Sounds fun. Sounds like I'm going to create a good story out of this. So the mindset of a speaker is not just about speaking. It's also an approach to life. How do you create good stories? Me choosing to break through my fear of speaking, getting on that motorcycle, that learning gets applied to all areas of life. So the approach to life is how you're going to be collecting stories to share as well. It also gives you the freedom to work from anywhere. You're not going to be limited to the stages you have in person. You can speak anywhere in the world. I've hosted workshops in Thailand, Malaysia, virtually, Botswana, randomly. Okay. You can do that with the internet. And that's what allows you to have the lifestyle that you really want to have and the adventures you want to have. Your past is only going to determine your future if you let it. So you're not limited to who you've been. Now, if I wanted to really go into the background of the story, because those are all the highlight reels, if I let my past determine my future, I would not be alive right now. That is my bedroom in my father's house. There's no floor. There's tarp on the floor. It is an air mattress. And I don't know if you can tell in the photo, but there's like a giant hole in that second floor bathroom. Okay. And I was extremely depressed. But I'm sharing this with you, not because I have to. I'm sharing that with you to let you know that your story doesn't have to be your trauma either. Okay. Your story does not have to be a trauma dumping list of everything you've ever been through to get to where you are. If you can use it to help yourself and others, definitely do that. But I also want to encourage you, your story, you're still writing it. You get to pick and choose. So if your story is what's limiting you to stepping up and having that confidence and taking center stage, know that your story is not limited to all the bad things that have happened to you. Okay. I do not look like where I came from. Praise God. Okay. And I'm also not limited by the past. Maybe the odds were against me. I'm okay with that because I don't play by odds. From the very start of my life, I knew I had to map out. I needed a map for where I'm going. I wasn't going to stay stuck in confusion, and I wasn't going to hold on to a victim mentality. I needed to know where am I right now and where do I want to go. And no matter what negative thing happened to me, I just added it to a list and said, okay, that's one thing I'm going to have to get over one day. I don't know when that day's going to come, but this is going to be undone. Anything that's ever going to happen to you can be undone. Also not what they're going to teach you about mindset, but it's true. It can all be undone. You can learn, you can grow, and you can get past all of these things. So the mindset and the mentality is what needs to be eliminated. Not what you need to learn, not what you need to acquire, not the knowledge you need to collect. What do I need to eliminate in order to be successful? This is the concept of decluttering. So you choose your story knowing that it's still being written. What about that confidence piece? Show of hands, how many of you are super confident as a speaker and be happy to get up right now and deliver a talk? I love it. Okay. For everyone that's not confident, would you say you're like a below 5 or like above 5 confidence? Above? Middle? Okay, cool. We have a pretty evenly split room. Let's take a look at this confidence concept. Is that child confident? Yes? Let's take a look. I'll get out of the way. Is that a confident baby? I'm hearing yes. Any no's? Yeah, he sure is. Okay, I would say very confident. That baby's going to cry for every need. It's not worried about what other people are thinking, right? It's not worried about maybe I don't want to offend someone. I don't want to wake anyone up. No. That's not how it works. That baby's always going to be self-advocating for what it needs. To be joyful, guilt-free. And that's because confidence is a natural state. It's not something you have to go acquire or go looking for. It's a natural state of being. But if that's the case and we're lacking confidence, what happened? What do all kids tend to say when they learn to speak? They're very excited. They want to be seen. They want to be heard. They say congratulations. They're saying, look at me. Look what I did. Look over here. But most adults don't do that, right? What happened? Right? They're saying, look at me. Look what I just made. Look at this piece of art I just did. We have parents that are coming down on us at times. Maybe it was a teacher. Maybe it was bullies in school. Right? We're learning not to be confident. We're taking ourselves out of that natural state. So we learn things like guilt. We learn things like shame and embarrassment and rejection. We learn what it's like to not be accepted. Wait a minute, I have to protect myself from those things. Confidence is about unlearning. It's not about learning. We get to undo those things. Now, speaker confidence starts with identity. Right? We're going to start rewiring some of this stuff. Now, what most people do is they're going to start with personal branding, right? You have a business. This is like natural way of thinking. I have a business. I want a personal brand. Let me build my personal brand. As someone who's had a personal branding agency, I can tell you this is not the right approach. And I've known a lot of other agency owners as well. Marketing agencies usually fail their clients when the client is not sure who they are. They're not sure. There's a mindset thing that comes up. There are hundreds of thousands of dollars wasted in a lot of businesses because they go to invest in personal branding, but they haven't figured out who they are on their own yet, which is why you need to start with the identity piece, and business is going to pull it out of you. Okay. So we need to start at the core identity level. Now, I mentioned this a little bit on the panel yesterday, but I thought this would be a helpful slide if you want to take a picture. Okay. What are the 5 P's of a fragile identity? First one is your position. First one is your position. This could be your current role or your past roles in your family, in your career. Maybe it's a role in your business. I heard that question. Maybe it's the role that you're holding in your business right now that you're afraid to let go of, that you're afraid to delegate. You cannot maintain and attach your identity to your role because that can be taken away from you. Your popularity is another one. We're talking about social media. We're talking about branding and speaking. If you attach your identity to something like popularity, you are ensuring that you will go down a downward spiral. That is not the path to success. You can't attach your identity to your possessions, your appearance, your material things, your lifestyle. Your performance is a big one. You can't attach to that either. And most importantly, you can't attach to your past. That's not who you are anymore. And it's important to understand that when it comes to thinking about taking feedback, getting negative criticism, getting comments. If anybody tries to attack my past, I find it funny because to me, that's like robbing my old house. I don't live there. That's not my house. That's way back there. Like, you're silly. What are you doing? If my identity was in my past, that would be extremely painful. That's why it can't be. You want to have an anti-fragile identity. You want to have an identity that's going to be able to withstand the test of time and be sustainable no matter what season, no matter what life throws at you, no matter who you choose to become. And you need one that's internalized. If you externalize your identity, now you need external validation. That is not a path for success either. Okay? So first, you need a spiritual identity, or spiritual beings having a human experience. You need to attach to that. That is everlasting. That is eternal. You get to have the identity of a learner, of an adapter, of an experimenter. That allows you to always be learning. Because when you fail, you say, well, who am I? Oh, I'm a learner. I just learned something. That's great. I get to evolve. That allows you to evolve as well instead of creating a brand and getting stuck in your brand. How many brands I know? How many influencers I know? How many stars I know who are stuck because they've created a brand based on who they were, on lifestyle things, and now they're trapped in a brand that doesn't even feel aligned for them. Really important. Okay? Now, a resilient identity, and this is the work a coach will do with you. A resilient identity, you're going to have value systems, not just one value system for life. You're going to have value systems for every area of your life. Those are going to be your reference points. You're going to have philosophies and beliefs about life. You're going to know what normal is based on that identity. I don't know what normal is for you right now, but that's programming and that can get erased. What is normal for the most successful version of you? Probably going to mean you have to raise your standards if it's at next level, right? All of a sudden, that's the normal. But you need to know what that is first, or you're going to have a hard time because you're going to get really, really successful, and then you're going to be stuck in a scarcity mindset, and your behavior patterns are not going to match the new identity. You need to have a vision and a clear image of that future evolution of yourself and a clear purpose and mission. So how do we eliminate these confidence blocks? We all want to take center stage, and there's a reason we're not on the amount of stages that we want to be on. What is getting in the way? We need to take inventory. And that's what we're going to do now. But first, we're going to play a game. I didn't put a picture of it, but I really like driving fast. I'm not a spectator kind of person. I don't do the football. I'm sorry. I was not a football fan. And as much as I love combat sports and I love watching, I'm a doer. I want to be the person behind the wheel, hence the motorcycles. Okay. So we're going to do a race. Winner gets $1 million. We're in? We're bought in? We're going to race? All right. So first thing we get to do is you get to pick your car. I know this is the hardest question. It's going to be the hardest question today. Which car are we going with? We have the sexy, exotic sports car on the right. You know, on the left, we have what it is. Who do we got? Sports car? Left? You get to re-engineer anything you want in the next slide. So you just choose your base. Left? Okay. Everyone thinks this is a trick question, so they're going to the left. That's hilarious. Not a trick question, I promise. Okay, what you get next, you get to have an unlimited budget on what goes inside that car. Any modifications you want to do engine because it's an old car, that's fine. You get to choose your pit team. All right, you're going to optimize that car to pure perfection, to your ultimate confidence that you're going to win this race. Who's feeling confident right now? Majority of the room? All right. Let's see. Now, your track and your opponent's track, although will have the same dimensions and distance, is not the exact same track. Your opponent's track is perfectly clear. Your track might look a little different. There might be some traffic cones. Might be a car accident. I lived in Thailand, so you never know when there's an elephant on the road. Okay? That's going to stop traffic for sure. And I also lived in Atlanta, and for some reason, Atlanta has mattresses on the road and the highway, and no one knows how they get there, okay? So you don't know what's on your path. Who's going to win that race? You or your opponent? Probably opponent, right? Does it matter which car you had? In business, we focus so much on ourselves. What do I need to do? How do I optimize myself? What information do I need? What skill do I need? Let me just get better and better and better. We're optimizing the car. We're optimizing the vehicle. We need to look at the path that we're on because that's unique and individual to us. That's why it's not fair to have comparisonitis, right? What is on your path that might be blocking you? Because if the car here, in this case, doesn't matter, of course, it's going to matter when that path is cleared. But the path is what we need to be looking at first. We already know who won. See, a lot of you are that sports vehicle. A lot of you have that supercar right now. You have all the things you need. You have all the skills and knowledge you need. You're ready to run. But you haven't cleared that road yet. What's blocking you from your potential? It's probably not an actual traffic cone or an elephant. We're in Miami. I know there's not enough elephants here. It makes me sad. But I actually studied this. I actually interviewed over 200 entrepreneurs and asked them, what is getting in the way of your success? And 70% said distraction. 70%. Procrastination came in next at 67%. We have anxiety and overwhelm. We had self-sabotage. And some other interesting things I found as well. Keeping a consistent routine, consistency was a huge challenge, almost at 80%. Being able to organize your own thoughts, also 61%. Some of you are probably challenged with this right now. But these are all of the symptoms of your challenge. These are not the actual problems. And it's definitely not the root cause. Until you know the root cause, what's creating these patterns, you're not going to be able to clear them. Okay, so I can talk to you about limiting beliefs right now and have you write them all out and then write something new. But at the end of the day, if your subconscious mind has a root cause that you're not aware of, it's not going to be able to clear this for you. Okay, I like to get results and get straight to the point, which means we need to get that root cause. Now, what we're mostly taught about mindset, probably any mindset workshop you've ever taken, is going to be talking about this. We're talking about your goals and your vision and who you want to become. We're going to create a vision board. We're going to look at our positive affirmations. We're going to look at leadership development, marketing, branding, interviews. We're going to be focused on all of these things. Who do we want to become? We get to do first is look at the elimination mindset, which looks like this. Are you overwhelmed? How do you show up when you're overwhelmed? Is that at your best? Are you really going to be looking for those opportunities if you're in a state of overwhelm? Or are you probably going to stay stuck a little bit? Do you have an inner critic? What is it like in your own mind? What's the conversation happening in your mind when you sit down alone at your computer and you go to start your work? Do you feel like you're good enough to be on stage? Do you feel like you're worthy of being on stage? Because if you don't have to admit it right now, but if you don't, you're going to have a really hard time actually putting in the work and putting in the hours to be successful as a speaker and take center stage. Do you have a fear of public speaking? Rejection, failure, doubt, unresolved emotions or trauma? I know for me, I couldn't share my story without breaking down. That was really hard for me to go on stage and share my story if I could not physically do it. I had to overcome those things. Right now, I would like you to write down, what is getting in your way? What do you need to eliminate to take center stage? Write a list. Is it distraction? lack of clarity. Vision. That's vision. Your vision of being a successful speaker does not include money. That could be a blueprint that's missing. That could be a strategy gap. Or it could be self-sabotage. It could be a fear of success or failure that's showing up and saying, well, if there's no money in it, I'm not in it, so I'm not going to do it. Could be a lot of things. Is that true? It's not. And we'll talk about that later. I need money in order to be a speaker. I was negative $10,000 in debt living on a small island. I didn't wear shoes for a year. Most of my speaking engagements involved me in a bikini top and tie-dye overshirt. Okay. And the reason that worked is because people were getting results and got what they came for. It was never about me to begin with. People were getting results. They got value. It actually doesn't matter how much money you have, what you look like, what you're wearing, if people are getting the value. People seek out value. There's so little of it today. So hard to find. Right? So there might be a limiting belief. Maybe there's a limiting belief you need to eliminate in order to be a successful speaker. You don't need money to show up on someone else's Zoom in a classroom, provide value to them, and sell something. It doesn't take a lot of time. So for me professionally, I had to let go of a lot of things. Definitely all the diagnoses that I got, ADHD, OCD, PTSD, all these labels. I had to get rid of a lot of labels that were given to me by professionals, by teachers, by parents, all the labels I need to let go of. Scarcity mindset, everything that was on that list. I had all of them, the whole gamut. Recovering from burnout, all of these things I had to let go of. So let's go ahead and increase your confidence right now. You need to say it like you mean it. One thing you need to know, and I want you to write this down. You are never going to outperform your own self-image. So we need to work on that. What is your self-image? If you don't have an identity, you're not going to have a healthy self-image. You know what else you're not going to outperform? You're never going to outperform the person that you think you can become. If you don't think you can become it, you're never going to put the actual work in because it's not possible for you. There's 4 different types of confidence that I like to talk about. First one being self-confidence. Is your natural default, how do I feel about myself? Next one is your earned confidence. This is a skill. That means you need to have an evidence loop of I did something, I got a result from it, and you kind of stack it like that. Third one being God confidence. Last one being perceived confidence, how others perceive you. This is more like a social type of confidence. Your self-confidence, that's going to be based on those labels. Your personal identity that you've decided to work on. Earned confidence, you get to start as a beginner and say, I'm a beginner, here I am. But that's going to come from time, right? Time is going to allow you to have that earned confidence. God confidence is saying, wow, if that unlikely human is on a stage right now, given everything they've been through, and God could use them, he can use me. And it's saying, maybe I don't have to be the best because the weight's not on me anymore. There's a supernatural force at play here. Okay. There's a bunch of people unlikely. How did I get here? Guys, it would be so laughable to say I did this on my own. Okay. You saw the pictures of how I was raised. It doesn't make sense. The lifestyle nothing makes sense if it was just on me. So you need to have that other confidence as well. And that perceived confidence is other people need to perceive you as confident. That's really easy. And that's something I invested a lot in. I hired an etiquette coach. I hired a personal stylist. Turns out when you live on a small island and don't wear shoes, you need to learn how to reintegrate into society. But that's something you can buy. Anything is learnable. I didn't say I'm not into style. I don't know how to curl my hair. I don't know how to do these things. I'm not a girly girl. I didn't say any of that. I was like, well, I can learn it, right? Anything can be learned. You can be anyone or anything you want to be or have to be in order to do well in business. So looking confident, I'm going to skip through this. Like I said, just upgrade yourself. You're not stuck to the person you were. You're not where you came from. Match and show up for the way that you want to be addressed. Okay, play the part. Correct your posture. This is so underrated. So underrated. Get the posture right. If I came up here and I said, yes, I'm going to talk about confidence and something I've struggled with a lot, and you're not going to listen to me about confidence. Okay, so you need to look up and show the part. Posture is a big part of that. And I'm not going to go through these tips just for a matter of time, but you can go ahead and take a screenshot of the slide. Okay. You can tell I do a lot of online presentations. I just told you to take a screenshot. I meant take a picture. Okay. Now, this is really important when you're evolving yourself and your identity. It takes about 100 days for people to notice your evolution and catch up to your new identity. It's true for losing weight. You're going to lose weight. No one's going to notice. 3 months later, 4 months later, you look different. Right? When you're changing, don't get frustrated. Right? You're focused on yourself. You're focused on what do I think of me? How do I become the person of integrity and character that I want to be? But we're not looking at that external validation here. The last thing you need to do is take strategic action. We talk about massive action. Has anyone taken massive action and got no results? Yeah, we need strategy. We need strategic action. Massive, yes. Strategy precedes it. So I want you guys all to have the opportunity to win a free coaching call with me if any of these things came up. Okay? All you have to do is send me a list of the things that we're eliminating. And really, this is for you. I want to make sure you wrote down a list of what's getting in your way. So easy to distract ourselves today. So easy to say, I'm good. I just need one more thing. But I want you to really make sure you have that list and have a plan. If you were to list and you have no plan on what you're going to do about it, that list isn't going anywhere. It's going to stay there. You can throw away the notebook. The list is still in your mind. So make sure you have a plan on what you're going to do to overcome these things. And you can send that to my Instagram, and the QR code is for the Instagram as well. Just send me a DM with that exact list. 2 questions. Yes.
Thank you. How did you, I guess I don't have enough clarity on how to do it, right? I probably just need to post and say, hey, I'm doing an event, meet here. That's probably what it's going to come down to, right? But I need to be more strategic. Did you have a virtual assistant that you hire that does any of your marketing, any of your outreach? And if you do, how do you find them?
I don't do any cold outreach. And much similar to what Mike was saying, it's having the right people in your corner. I didn't go at any of that alone. None of that alone. I had the right coach for mindset. I actually had multiple mindset coaches for different individual things. I hired a marketing coach. I hired a business coach. I hired a speaking coach. Coaching, when you invest in coaching, I'm not saying you need a coach. You can do it on your own. It's going to take time. But if time is your most valuable asset and you are serious and committed to your results, why wouldn't you buy back your time? Why wouldn't you shorten your financial fast track? You know, I remember I hit my first 10K month as a coach about a month after my friend, who's been a coach for over 10 years, hit her first 20K month. Over 10 years it took her to get there. Another friend of mine has been in business 5 years. She hit her first 10K month the same month I did. I went to her celebration dinner. She didn't talk to me for 3 months. Strategy matters. Don't go at it alone. When it comes to one-on-one coaching, you don't need a program first. You don't need outreach. You don't need any of those things. You already know the people who need your help. They're already in your circle. They already know what you're good at. They're just waiting for an invitation. You don't need to have fancy slides. You don't need to have fancy branding. You don't even need a group program. I'd recommend working with 40 people one-on-one first. Get the results. And then from there, you'll see the patterns and how it stacks up into a program. But just focus on people.
So what was your first initial post like? What was your first, hey, what's up, everybody? I'm going to be working with people one-on-one coaching. What did the first, with clarity, what did it look like?
It wasn't even a post, actually. I started talking about discipline and motivation on social media. I started sharing my story. Sharing my story, and network marketing coaches picked up on it. They noticed. They said, wait, can you speak to my audience? Can you talk to them about discipline and motivation? And I spoke. I didn't pitch anything. I got calls booked. And they were saying, what do you offer? I didn't have an offer. They knew I could get them a result. And together we decided on a plan on how they would get that. But that was probably the first 10 clients. I was just speaking up, sharing my story, sharing what I'm good at. And then people were booking calls saying, how can you help me? Can you help me, please? So it was before the even offer. I was just focused on helping people. When you focus on helping people, the money's going to follow. People know value and people know people with heart. So I would say, focus on that. Hey, I'm really good at this one thing. If this is a challenge for you, come, let's have a conversation. Let's see how I can help. Doesn't have to be super structured formatted, especially in the beginning. Thank you for the question.
Let's take one more.
There we go. Big fan, by the way. It's funny you say that about reaching out. And I remember a post you did where we connected and you said, hey, could you just get on a quick call with me and answer some questions that I have? And from hearing you and learning from you, I think you ran through like a set of questions. I think it was even the survey you may have used in there. Mm-hmm. And it made me think, right? So to kind of even his question, like I think, and even me not remembering what Benny did, it's all the posts you put out sometimes that are, I think, engaging and bringing people in. But one of the things I see in a lot of your posts is you're in a lot of big rooms, right? With people that, and you talked about confidence, like you may be intimidated by Elena Cardone or all these people. How do you network in those rooms when you see these people and kind of have the confidence to have the conversations? Like, what do you open with? What do you say? Like, how do you approach somebody that maybe you're fearful of because you feel like, man, they're so far in another league. I can't talk to that person.
The more successful you become and the more challenges you go through, the more you want other people to not go through that, right? You have to go through a lot to become super successful. And what I found is the more successful someone is, the more heart they have to help someone out. Knowing that it gives other people joy and pleasure to help you will eliminate that barrier to you approaching them. That's the first part. What I found with bigger brands is, from my personal experience and investments, the bigger brands that I've hired and worked with have had minimal value add at all. I hired a very successful celebrity coach to help me with speaking and pitching. And I'll never forget this woman. It's probably someone everyone in this room knows, actually. She said, well, you're a bit too young to be doing this. No one's going to believe you because you're just some young blonde girl. I paid to be in that room, thousands of dollars. And then she went on to say it was because I reminded her of a bully she had in high school. Okay? This is a big celebrity brand who's made literally over $1 billion in sales. Okay. And you would all know this person. So it's not usually the big brands that have the highest value. If you want to connect with them, look how you can add value to them. Highest value people, the first thing I'm asking is like, what causes are you into? What do you do for philanthropy? Those are the questions I have because that's something I can connect with them on. I'm not looking to get something out of them, but I think most importantly, I'm just looking to connect with people on social media. You go to an event, everyone's exhausted. How are you going to remember people's names? You're probably not going to remember which conversation went to which person. Most people are not organized in terms of following up. So my goal is to connect on social media because I know if someone finds my social media, they're going to get to know me on their own time. They're going to sort it out if they need me or not. And they're going to reach out to me and book a call. And that is so much less friction and effort than me really trying to press and meet as many people as possible. I'm really more focused on the attracting side and seeing what social media can do for me and my business, and also me getting curious about their social media and building a relationship. When you focus on the relationship, the results follow. Thank you for the question.
All right. Was that amazing or what? Coach Tiffany, a hand. You did a great job. And I'm going to tell you something. I met Coach Tiffany. We were both at Great American Speak Off. We both were contestants. And as we were going through that process, I just heard her story and I knew she had something powerful to share. And I said, listen, I want you to come up before we do our training. We're gonna do something different right now, okay?